Good afternoon. This is Reverend Twyla Reece coming to you from Unity of Merced in Merced, California. Unity Merced is a part of Unity Worldwide Ministries, Unity World Headquarters in Lee Summit, Missouri. Unity Village, perhaps many of you have been to visit there. It's a lovely, lovely campus. We meet here in Merced, California at 305 West 26th Street at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. And I am so happy to be here with you virtually right now and share with you a little bit of the message that I shared this morning. I started off talking about experiencing the wholeness of life. How are you experiencing the wholeness of life? Do you experience the wholeness of life? What does life as a whole mean to you? What does wholeness mean to you? So just breathe that in for a moment as we come into this time together. Wholeness. In Unity, we pray knowing that the wholeness of a situation, that the wholeness of an individual is already made manifest. That in the completeness of everything in the universe, we are one with God. We are one with everything. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, said, God does not wait on us. No, wait a minute. We do not wait on God. God waits on us. We do not wait on God. God waits for us. We are always in the presence of the all-loving force of good and love. We are always in that presence. It is we as human beings who get to wake up to it and to remember that we are a part of that wholeness, a part of that oneness, a part of that divine love connected to Source. So how are you living your wholeness? If it already is, right? It already exists. You are already a part of it. So how are you living it? So how are you living it? John Shelby Spong, I referred to him last week. I do not think of God theistically, that is, as a being, supernatural in power, who dwells beyond the limits of my world. I rather experience God as the source of life, willing me to live fully, the source of love, calling me to love wastefully, and to borrow a phrase from theologian Paul Tillich, as the ground of being, calling me to be all that I can be. What is the God of your understanding? Does the God of your understanding encourage you to think out of the box? Does the God of your understanding give encouragement? Again, God is principle. So God doesn't really encourage, God is. But does that life force within us that is calling us forward to live more, to love more, to laugh more, to express more? Does that divine purpose, what is that calling you to be? How is that lifting you up? How is that lifting you up? That divine life force that is the impetus of all breath, of all movement. So John Shelby Spong says that his God is a source of life that calls him to be all that he can be. I love that. I live that. That's my core belief system. That God is not a supernatural power, theistically, anthropomorphically, but as the source, as the vibration, the energy of all being. Yeah, try that on. If you haven't thought about it from that standpoint, try it on and see. But how are you living the wholeness of your life? How are you living the wholeness of your life? I want to share a story with you from Nelson Mandela. This story is shared in a writing called The Chicali Wall. The Chicali Wall by, excuse me, Spanish is not great off of my tongue. Echevera Martinez. Echevera Martinez. The Chicali Wall. It's a story that was shared by Nelson Mandela. Let me read it to you. After becoming president, I asked some of my bodyguard members to go for a walk in town. After the walk, we went for lunch at a restaurant. After a bit of waiting, the waiter sat us at a table and brought us our menus. And it was at that moment that I realized that at the table that was directly in front of ours, there was a single man dining alone who was waiting to be served. When he was served, he told one of his soldiers to please go ask that man to join us. The soldier went and transmitted my invitation. The man stood up, took his plate of food, and sat next to me. While eating, his hands were constantly shaking, and he didn't lift his head from the food. When we finished, he waved at me without even looking at me. I shook his hand, and he walked away. One of my soldiers said to me, Madiba, that man must be very sick, as his hands wouldn't stop shaking while he was eating. And I told my soldiers, not at all, not at all. The reason for his tremor is another, I replied. They looked at me, and I said to them, the man was the guardian of the jail where I was locked up. Often after the torture, I screamed and cried for water, and he came to humiliate me. He laughed at me, and instead of giving me water, he urinated on my head. He wasn't sick. He was scared and shook, maybe fearing that I, now that I'm president of South Africa, would send him to jail and do the same thing to him that he did to me, torturing him and humiliating him. But that is not me. That behavior is not part of my character nor my ethics. Minds that seek revenge destroy states, while those that seek reconciliation build nations. Again, Nelson Mandela asked his torturer to sit with him and dine with him. Could you do that? I don't know if I could do that, quite frankly. I like to think that I am evolved enough to do that, but I don't know that I'm that strong. I don't think any of us do until we are in that moment. Can we be that forgiving? Can we be that allowing? Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can. And I think maybe in some instances, we all can, right? We can all do that. But this is a big one. I am always so impressed with the family members of victims of shootings that that forgive, are so able to step immediately into forgiveness because they do not want to carry that weight of the anger and the pain and the suffering. They want to move into forgiveness and move into the wholeness. while still holding the perpetrator accountable for misdeeds, but not condemning them to a life of suffering that affects their own soul, right? They can see that this person too is a precious child of God, is a precious child of the universe, in some way being led by fear. The golden rule from Matthew 7:12, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Matthew chapter 7 verse 12. Our master teacher. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Nelson Mandela, inviting the man who tortured him to sit at the same table with him, to let him know that he was not a man of revenge, but a man of forgiveness, a man of being able to see the wholeness in another person. How are you finding your wholeness? How are you showing up in the world? How are you showing up in the world? How are you? I want to share this with you. In order to experience the wholeness of life, are you willing to expand your thinking? In order to experience the wholeness of life, are you willing to expand your thinking? Are you willing to expand your vision and listen to the opinions of others, even if you vehemently disagree with them? What do you think? Can you do that? What if we were willing to hear each other? What if we were truly willing to hear each other at this time on planet Earth with so many differing opinions, so many people believing that they know the truth? My truth is the truth. How would it be different if we were willing to come together and share a moment of just being willing to listen? I'm not saying you have to agree, but to just be willing to listen, to be able to tell another person, I hear you. I hear you. I hear that you're afraid. I hear that you're angry. I hear that you're upset. And not try to fix them, not try to change them, but to just allow your heart to be open enough to be able to hear what they have to say. What if? Ernest Holmes says, today my eyes are open more widely and I look at a broader horizon. Today my eyes are open more widely and I look at a broader horizon. How are you living your wholeness? Are you willing to listen to another person? Don't you know that from your own personal experience that when you feel that you've been heard, that something is hurting you, that something is bothering you, but until you are actually listened to and acknowledged, there's like you're stuck. There's no place to go. There's no place to grow. And that once you have an opportunity to have your voice heard, then you can take a breath and go, okay, at least I feel like I was finally heard. No, that person doesn't agree with me. No, maybe things won't change, but at least I got an opportunity to share my feelings and to be acknowledged for that. We open our eyes more widely And we can look out at a broader horizon of possibility when we know that we have been heard. How are you living your wholeness? Are you willing to open your heart? Let me share. We have the power to choose how we will show up in life. We have the power to listen to those with whom we don't agree. It is said that people change when they feel heard, when they feel unchallenged. Simply being heard, simply being listened to. It may not be immediately apparent, but somewhere within them, I believe a glimmer of light occurs and they can begin to feel a bit of trust. Trust creates safety, safety reduces fear, and reduced fear leads to open hearts. Reduced fear leads to open hearts. Being listened to allows for a glimmer of trust to open up within one's mind, within one's heart, within one's boundary system. I invite you to find a way to live your wholeness. And for today, living that wholeness means being willing to listen to someone that you don't agree with. And perhaps that's even yourself, that you need to just have a nice little conversation with yourself about your own fears, about your own worries. What if you listened to yourself first? What if? I believe that there is one presence and one power, God the good. I believe in that one presence and one power. I don't believe in a separation. It is human beings that separate. It is the human ego that is striving for attention that causes some pain and suffering. It's also the ego that allows for healing and love once it is being heard, right? It's not God. It's not the enemy or the devil or Satan or whatever you want to call that mythological system. One presence, one power, only good. Everything else that is unlike love is created out of people who are afraid. They don't know they're afraid. They just think they're right and they just think they're mad. Everything is either love or fear. So I invite you to take a little moral inventory for yourself and then ask yourself how you are living your wholeness. Can you be more like the Nelson Mandelas of the world and invite your enemy to dine with you? Of course, at that point, Nelson Mandela didn't consider him an enemy. Nelson Mandela made a great transformation during those 25 years that he was in prison. The imprisoned soul. Most of us have it to some degree. I invite you to find your life, to find your light, to live your wholeness, and be willing to listen. At least just listen and acknowledge that the people that you don't agree with are coming from fear. Light always prevails. Love always prevails. Anything that is unlike light and love is fear. So go forward, go forth, Enjoy your week. Contemplate your wholeness. Look around you. See where you need to do a better job of listening, a better job of loving. And I'll see you next week. Bye for now.